Hello and welcome back to Clownfish TV. It is me, Geeky Sparkles, and it's just me for this video because Kneon is doing something else. But today we're going to talk about Stranger Things again. Because we've been talking about it often. We have been fans since the beginning of the show on Netflix. Our whole family is fans of the show. And interestingly enough, there is a new theory that people are talking about. Now, I can't say if it's true or not. I don't know. We don't know. But it's an interesting theory, and it kind of ties back to another giant franchise we're going to mention here in a bit too. But the episodes, or series 1 through 4, felt very different than the last season. Like, the start of the last season was really good, and then it just, you know, as you all know, it kind of just went. The second half was downhill, and then by the finale, it's what the heck happened. Well, Grace Randolph posted, and apparently it's a fan theory that's been going around, that there's speculation that one of the Ross Duffer's wife, was it Leah Janiak, was possibly the one who was writing the show, because she has actually a bunch of credits prior to being married to him. She married him in 2015, but she had other credits. She had directorial credits. She worked on other shows, including Game of Thrones, Penny Dreadful, and different things. So she has credits herself. And the theory is that, like Marsha Griffin was Marsha Lucas, she might have been why the show was so popular. Grace Randolph says, it's possible. She says, reminds her of how Marsha Griffin, George Lucas's wife, saved the first Star Wars in the editing room as editor. And that's like something that people have known about for a while. Apparently, it's something that big fans have been told, that it's possible that his wife is the one who re-edited the film. The story was that it was a complete mess, and she stepped in to re-edit it, which is also one of the reasons I think there are other directors were brought in for, The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. And then when Lucas was in charge of his, we got the prequel trilogy, which, my husband likes, I'm not so much a fan of. Anyway, that's a fan theory. And I don't know if it's true or not. Again, it's coming from a lot of these fan groups saying this. Here we got Fandom Wire. Stranger Things fans have decoded why the final season was bad, and it's very personal. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about, apparently Matt Duffer is all ticked off because people are asking him hard questions they don't have answers to. Like, I guess they expected to show up and everybody's just going to lavish praise upon them instead of asking questions. And that's a whole other thing. So before we get into it any further, please like and subscribe. If you do, I'll give you a woohoo. Woohoo. And we're going to talk about it. So we'll start with this since I have it pulled up. Matt Duffer says he regrets doing post-finale interviews, asking fans to cut him some slack. People invested 10 years in this show. There are a lot of plot holes and unanswered questions and a lot of weirdness with the finale. I think given what they painted themselves into a corner with, it's the best they could do, but they could have not painted themselves in the corner to begin with, which we talked about at length on their videos. So now he's like, I wish I hadn't done interviews because I'm not in a good place. Why the hell did we do any of them yesterday is beyond me. I'm like fried. I was getting over the flu. So are a lot of people. So anyone mad at my answers we gave you yesterday, just cut me some slack. Okay, fine. You're in a better place today. What are your answers today then? You're not providing more answers. You're just having a fit that you're getting questioned. So basically what it boils down to is, you done screwed up. Fans are like, what the heck were you thinking? And you have no answer for them. To me, it felt like they were trying to rush ahead because they want to move on to whatever's next. That's ending. We need to get the next thing lined up. Understandable, though. The next thing lined up, that's what happened kind of with Game of Thrones. They kind of rushed it to the Star Wars movie, and then they lost the Star Wars movie because the Game of Thrones finale was so bad. And I kind of wonder if it isn't something along those lines. I don't know that. That's my speculation. And now other fans are questioning about, was, his wife the reason why the show is successful? But here's this, like, this is a brother, not the one that's married to her. But he's like, cut him some slack for, why did we do interviews? I don't know. Why'd you do interviews post any other part? Because you liked the plus after the first part, when everybody's like, oh my gosh, he has powers. You were, glowing and basking in the glory of praise. And now that people are like, what the fuck did you do? You're like, stop asking me questions. I had the flu, okay? Well, if you're better, give us new answers then. But back to this. So there's a theory that they think that his wife might have done some of these things. So yes, there's going to be spoilers. They're talking about different things. But they said they think that his wife, who was married to Ross Duffer for nearly a decade, she had her own career before that. She was a writer and director herself. She did the Fear Street and did different things. That she had something to do with it. So the recent fan conspiracies are taken into account. She may have been an integral piece of the show's success. Shortly after season 5 aired, some discontented fans took to social media speculating that she might have been linked to the process in the past, and that's why it felt so differently. All right? But they're also mad. But what it comes down to, though, with this whole fan theory, at the end of the day, it's a good theory. That, because it does feel very different. And they said that a lot of the other seasons felt more like her writing style. Possibly. But what they're mad about when you boil it down to everything is they're mad they didn't get their ship. And I'm not joking. They're mad because they didn't get Byler. And apparently Byler is the Will and Mike Wheeler ship. Will Byers and Mike Wheeler. And I guess she was the one that was pushing for that, according to the fans. She said there was a viral photo taken during the writer's strike saying Byler won't write itself. Well, why would she want to have a sign at all saying about writing Stranger Things? First of all. But then Byler. So yeah, the whole, shipping community, the ones that go really insane, they're all like, we didn't get our gay ship because you have to make everything gay and no one can be best friends without being gay. But it also kind of leads that she might have because, he was all upset and was making the picture and all that for Will or for Mike last time. And that was kind of not even really addressed in this season, other than he had a crush on someone. So, who knows? Maybe she was going to try to push it in there. But no one wanted to see that, really. I mean, it was already established that Will was with 11. It was established. It was, he wasn't going to suddenly change his mind and be like, or Mike was with 11. He's not going to suddenly change his mind and be like, oh yeah, Will, I just didn't see you the whole time. And I've suddenly decided that I like boys. That's not how it works, not in reality. So, but that's what it's stemming from. All the speculation is coming from the fact that they didn't get their damn ship. But that being said, there's still it still makes you go, It still makes you wonder. So here's another one, Pop Rant. Stranger Things fans blame disappointing finale on Ross Duffer's divorce. Fans believe his divorce could have influenced Stranger Things' disappointing finale, with many couples, including Byler, receiving sad endings. They were never going to be a couple. Many couples, including Byler. Well, that implies there was a couple. There was no couple. Then I guess because she always did queer storytelling in Fear Street, they think that and she had the sign that they think that she was the one writing it, or their headcanon is she's the one writing it because they want their ship. Now, look. It's very possible she worked on it. If nothing else, when you're married to someone, I can tell you for 100% certainty, unless you have some reason you can't talk to your spouse. When you're married to someone, especially someone who has the same background as you and does the same kind of job as you, it is not uncommon to bounce ideas off each other and then being like, well, what if this happened? What if that happened? So even if she doesn't get credit for writing, did she have input into the show? More than likely. We don't know that, but it would be really dumb to think she didn't. Okay? She probably had input, especially since she's done successful shows before. I am sure she had stuff she said. She didn't get any credit for the writing. They gave the credit to the writers, but that doesn't mean you didn't do anything on it, because I can tell you for a fact that I used to do flats and colors for the Disney books that Kneon worked on, and I only got credited for like one. And he had to fight to get me credit for that one. Meanwhile, the person that came in next, his wife did a bunch, and they credited her for everything she did. But I digress. I didn't get credited for all the work I did. Oh my gosh, I forget how many books I worked on, and I got credit for one. At least I got credit, I guess. But that doesn't mean you get credited. It could be a number of reasons why. Or he could have come into work and saying, hey, I had a great idea, and it wasn't even his idea. Also possible. But the argument that the reason you think she wrote it and that they got divorced last year, and that the reason that the ending sucked was because you didn't get your Byler, that's just ridiculous. The ending sucked because I think it was rushed. Could it be because she got divorced and she wasn't giving him information anymore, and that's why the second half of they dropped the ball and they made it ridiculous and all that? Possibly. Very strong possibility. But that's the new theory that's out there. Everybody's debating it, that did his wife pull a Marsha Lucas, and was she the one that was, one of the people driving this forward? But you have to remember, too, it's the Duffer Brothers. There's two of them. Not just one. So it wouldn't be just him and his wife writing this. It would, there would have been an effort from the other brother too, coming up with the story. moving it forward. So I think that she might have had input. Do I think it was enough input that, you know, it was making a huge deal? Possibly, but she was one voice of many. Do I think that they just dropped the ball because they're probably trying to rush it out? I'm more inclined to think that. But who knows? The Byler people are up in arms because if they hadn't got divorced, how dare they? How that pesky divorce got in the way of their ship? That's, when you boil it down, that's the argument. They're mad because they didn't get Byler, and they are convinced they would have gotten Byler if she kept writing it, even though they weren't setting that up at all, from anything I've seen. Opposite, actually. But they're convinced that that's what it would have been the ending had they not gotten divorced, and how dare their personal life get in the way of their ending. That being said, I'm sure there's going to be lots of fan fiction. Write your own fan fiction. The ending felt like fan fiction anyway, so write your own. And if you want to put Byler in there, knock yourself out. So there you go, guys. What do you think? Comment and let us know, and we'll talk to you later. Bye!